It's every Red Raiders favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. How you going? It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com alongside Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. Would love to hear your thoughts and your comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. You can join the conversation as well at 806-771-0973. We get this from Raiders' dad on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Was there an issue with the word of the day today, Clint? At 2:45?
No, I definitely said the 2:45 word was Mets.
You definitely did?
M-E-T-S, Mets.
Mets,
I want to repeat,
Mets.
I definitely said the word of the day
Okay.
at 2:45
That boy.
was Mets.
Good work by you, Clint.
Thank you.
Never a doubt.
We have day baseball today. I get used to this, Gus.
Yeah, heck yeah. Hey, I think Schwarber's home run just landed from last night.
Okay.
Oh,
That
that
just
thing
in.
was a bomb. What was it they said, like the StatCast or whatever it is, fourth or fifth hardest hit ball ever or something like that? I mean, obviously
Ever?
not ever, but in the recorded history of that deal, like 119.8 on the exit speed. You Darvish threw him a little cement mixer, and he hit that thing a ton, 488 feet, and with an exit velo of 119.8. I mean, just a nuke.
Golly.
He crushed that thing. Like, you just see it. Darvish knew it. Everybody knew it. You know, Schwarber hit 46 jacks this year, so he did fine.
No stranger to dingers.
No.
Yeah,
No,
hardest
no, no.
hit postseason home run ever recorded.
Yeah, there you go. And I mean, just a laser.
Do you I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's all right. No, you're good. Fire away.
Because you mentioned that StatCast, they've only been measuring this since 2015, right? So this is not something that goes back a long ways.
Exit
But-
speeds and those type things.
But we have seen in other areas of sport how some of the physical traits are maybe more or bigger or faster or whatever now than they would have been in the past. My question is, and this would be, I guess, pure conjecture and just speculation, would they have come close to that?
See, I've always, knowing what we know now, as measured as it is now and pretty precise, what it's done is taken some of the, I grew up with the idea that Mickey Mantle hit a 560-foot home run. And there's no question Mickey Mantle's a great player, but did he really? It's unthinkable. I mean, I'm sure somebody somewhere has done the math, and you go, so Aaron Judge is 6'7", 270 pounds, or you can go to, just figure out the combo. Some dude with elite bat speed, you got Pujols just hit 700. None of those dudes got within 60 feet of a ball that. And then Babe Ruth hit one over the train tracks. It bounced down to the dead of dead, landed in the river 8,000 feet away. Kind of like, I'm starting to think that some of that stuff was just naked eye stuff, which is great. I'm not saying that they didn't hit a ball 505 feet, but the 5-6, you're telling me it was 60 feet farther than anyone's hit one in the last 7 years, as big and strong and as hard as these guys are throwing against them. It's just a hard thing to process. And again, Mickey Mantle's one of those guys that could play in any era, so I'm not taking anything away from it. And he's a Hall of Famer through and through, no doubt. Bo Jackson's one of those guys. Of course, there's a lot more to the Bo Jackson story, but you're like, man, wouldn't you have loved to see that play out, and to be able to put metrics on some of the things he did because of just the speed, the arm strength, the whole deal. That may be, you and I kicked this topic around last week, and it was real quick. but we talked about good 30 for 30s. The Bo Jackson one was outstanding because, they make the point in there that a lot of what Bo Jackson did was just before everything was on SportsCenter. And so
good point.
And certainly pre-social media. And so it bordered on the mythical, legendary Mickey Mantle type stuff, but there's a little more video available, more of the games on TV. And so him catching balls and running up the fence, and then him trucking Bosworth in the end zone, and then him hitting a home run in the All-Star game with Ronald Reagan in the booth, and then him out hitting or running the 80-yard touchdown on Monday Night Football. I mean, just like, and then it was gone, sadly, but just that if we ever choose to go through a list of 30 for 30s, that one's way up on mine for sure.
And we don't have this Phillies-Padres game on the score? No? Okay. Well, of course, the Phillies win yesterday.
Yep.
And
2-0. Yep.
They're playing game 2 now. And so probably not, but close. You could be pretty close to having 2 games in the can for the NLCS before the American League even starts. And if you lose this game and you're the Padres, it's almost like losing the 11 a.m. game
the dance.
on Thursday in the NCAA tournament. It's like, were you even there?
Exactly. Exactly. These guys, this is the same math in a NHL playoff and an NBA playoff or whatever, but when you're the team that opens on the road, you can go split one of the first 2 games, and you've essentially flipped home field advantage to yourself, because now the 3 of the last 5 games are at home, and and so that the Padres walk into the ballpark today going, "Hey boys, we got to have this one," and the Phillies are throwing another really good starter. They got 7 innings of 1-hit baseball last night, and that's really what had everybody talking. And Yu Darvish was pretty good, but he gave up 2 home runs. And, who knows how this will play out. But, boy, after watching that deal last night, you kind of feel like the Phillies are playing like the team of destiny. It'd be great if they both go, if they go 7 games and just keep it going, because I think we got 2 of the more enthusiastic fan bases left, because, they barely got into the playoffs, and both teams are, snuck in the wild card situation, all that. So they're, if the Phillies and the Padres win it or are competitive, it'll be a circus,
right? Because it's 6 straight markets. ALCS for the Astros.
Yeah.
Yankees were there back in 2019.
Yeah, and you said it best. You said it's fun to be. I mean, just you as a Houston kid, an Astros fan, like it's fun to operate as a fan of a team that's like, the team that
has a target on it.
Yeah, a target. It's not something we get to do very
no,
often.
It's something that I'm not very familiar with, right? Because the Rockets won 2 championships in the 90s, but they kind of fell off pretty quick after that. By 98 or whatever, it was pretty much over with. And then, even when they were really good with James Harden, they were chasing the Warriors.
They were still chasing, sure.
And they didn't win anything. The Texans have always been trash. So yeah, and then with the Astros, they went to the World Series in 2005. They didn't win a game,
right?
And then they all, started going to Denny's at 4:00 for dinner because they were so old.
That's well said right there. I like it.
The Juice is next on Double T 97.3.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com with Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. The Juice, your look at today's biggest sports headlines, brought to you by our good friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. 2 convenient locations here in town. 4th Street and the West Loop behind the Whataburger, and also Slide Road and 69th Street. And if you can't get out and about today, you can always go to specsonline.com as well. All right, headlines. NFL owners voted 31-1 yesterday to permit their compensation committee to open negotiations on a new contract for Commissioner Roger Goodell. The lone dissenting vote, Jerry Jones, who reportedly engaged in a heated exchange. Jerry Jones telling Kraft, "Don't F with me." Kraft replies, "Excuse me?" Jones, "Don't mess with me." How about that? Apparently, Jones takes issue with some of the triggers. This is not nearly as exciting or as juicy or as kind of, spicy as I was hoping it would be. But no, he's bothered by how the triggers for Goodell's proposed bonuses are a little bit vague. So I was kind of hoping for something a bit more salacious, but
Sounds like he's getting outvoted on it, though.
a little bit, yeah.
He was just short of using the word pal, though, in there from really starting something up.
Ooh. Don't mess with me, pal.
Remember, if you see Chris Level out and about,
Maybe. Is
say hello, pal.
that right?
Drop a pal. There's
He
no
didn't like
doubt.
it?
Nothing will trigger him quicker.
Really? What's he going to do?
I mean, he'll probably be very nice to you, and
And then just walk away going,
I think I'll get a nasty text, but that's fine.
So, did you put Gus up to this?
What if just by chance on Saturday, Brian Jensen's like, and let's send it down to our pal, Chris Level.
I would be delighted. That would be amazing. Missouri head men's basketball coach Dennis Gates not only believes the NCAA tournament should be expanded, but he would like to see the 68-team format double in size.
Oh, my God.
Quote, "It's time now to give that another look and maybe grow. I would like to see it doubled." Nah.
Here's your homework assignment. Go through that dude's Twitter and look for him to ever have liked a participation trophy or participation ribbon tweet. Because that's what it is. So we're, oh, yeah, that's all we do with these kids these days, participation trophies, blah, 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 blah. And now he's the one going, hey, coaches love that kind of stuff because you know what it is? It's kind of job security. Hey, made it to the NCAA tournament 4 of the last 5 years.
How do we feel about Dennis Gates? I know your answer, Clint. How do we feel about Dennis Gates having "friendship is essential to the soul" in his Twitter bio?
And that's
His Twitter bio is husband, dad, Witten family, head men's basketball coach at Missouri. Respect is a non-negotiable. Friendship is essential to the soul. I assume that's his fraternity. Critical thinker.
Okay.
I bet he had like a really wicked MySpace page.
What do you think his boot up song was?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know.
Pick something cool from about what would be the time frame on that? 04? 2, 3, 4? MySpace?
I think 05.
06? Okay, all right.
Let's do.
Because then Facebook kind of wiped it away.
From 05 to 08, MySpace reigned supreme.
Okay.
According to Google.
In the very early Facebook thing, you had to have a university connection at the very, very, very first. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was working at Tech, and I left Tech in 2006. And I remember going through that I'm going to call it authentication, but the whole, I work at Texas Tech, whatever it was, class, however the affiliation thing was. I would have been probably doing my doctoral work. And then later on to see the movie and go, oh, wow, I was kind of early. I'm not saying I was, in the first.
Wait, when did you join?
I don't know. Would it say it on there?
It might. I don't know.
I would. Well, I left. Well, I don't know. I would have guessed. I would guess in about 05, 06. Here's how. Did that, and then I did Twitter early enough that I'm Gus GUS26, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you can't do that now. You're not.
No, because you have that.
Yeah, I know. You're not. Well, you're not even getting 25 or 27. Like to get Gus something, it would probably have 4 or 5 numbers in it, right? Or underscores and all kinds of crap.
Yeah, I feel like having my full name on my Gmail account. Of course, no, I just gave out my email address, but that's fine, whatever. And then also my full name for Twitter is like it's kind of like it's a.
Yeah, that means you were early.
It's like a merit badge.
An early adopter.
Yeah.
But it also, and then I'm thinking that was the last social media I signed on to was that long, 15 years ago or whatever. But that's not true because I piddle with Instagram.
Okay, how about that?
Yeah, I get I grabbed all the Red Raider Gus. That's sort of the handle there, and then you go Red Raider Gus, and then because there's not. You'd have to have somebody named Gus that also is a Red Raider fan, right? So that's kind of one way to carve out my own little space over there.
Here's how you find out when you join Facebook. Settings, Facebook information tab. I'm already lost. Nope, settings. Your Facebook. Okay, let's see. Anyways, we'll figure that out later. We get this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Kansas should get a participation trophy for the last 5 years, given they should have been suspended due to cheating, but never will be. Somebody else says this. Tell Sneed that 100.7 the score is dogging on the refs for the Alabama-Tennessee game. It's whatever ESPN guys are on that station right now talking about how badly the refs did because of the noise. No one likes a tattletale. You know? This on the chat line from Steven. He says, suck it, Aaron. Suck it, Steve. Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, that's, yeah. Go back and forth there. We will have the high school fan zone for you coming up tonight at 7 o'clock on 100.7 The Score. Tomorrow, Red Raider football with Joe McGuire returns after a 1-week hiatus due to the open week. Red Raiders will take on West Virginia at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Big game. What's your
homecoming?
Oh, sure, yeah. What's your confidence level in a bowl game if you win on Saturday?
Ooh, be pretty good.
Like, what's the percentage swing if you lose versus you win?
Man. Would that be like a 2/3 to 1/3 from a 66 to a 33? 66. This is my percentage. You're not asking me for an actual metric.
No,
I would feel pretty strongly about a bowl game with a win this coming Saturday, and I wouldn't eliminate it, but it would the math would get the pathway would get a little bit harder to, and you could still just win out at home and get it. I mean, if you win 3 of your last 4 at home, you're bowl eligible, right?
Right.
So it's not that's what I'm saying. I didn't drop to 10%, but winning these next 2 home games, and the key thing, will Tech be favored against Baylor?
Ooh,
probably be a close spread, right?
I guess it depends what happens this weekend,
Yeah,
probably. If you're setting the line right now, I'd go maybe Tech -2.
Yeah. Oh, Tech -2. Okay.
Tech -4. I think they're a slight favorite, sure.
Okay. So, and
a lot of that, too, depends on what happens with Blake Shapen.
Yeah, that's a great point. That may be the most critical part of this deal.
I don't know that. Let's see. Here's the latest update that I have.
Yeah, the fighting Jayhawks head to Waco. I mean, Baylor's got 3 actually, they're in a stretch of 3 or 4 on the road.
Well, yeah, Randa didn't give a clear indication, on Monday whether he would be available or not. But since they have like 2 extra days of rest, I think Kansas is expecting to see him.
Yeah,
this weekend. More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. Eric has this on the chat line. Have a pleasant day, Aaron. Oh, thank you, Eric. Very nice of you. Somebody says this in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Tech will be -4 or -5, favored by 4 or 5. If they beat West Virginia, you get 3 for being at home. At a maximum, I think it's a pick 'em if at a neutral site. Texas Tech has the better resume. Yeah, you know what? I don't disagree. The Red Raiders played a tougher. Do we feel like Tech played a tougher non-conference schedule? Murray State, Houston at home, Texas at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, no, NC State. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah, non-conference.
No, okay,
right?
yeah. So you played a tougher non-conference. NC State on the road at that point was tougher than BYU on the road, and they lost by 6. You lost by 11, 13, 14, something like that. 2 scores.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I mean BYU, they lost at a place that were sharing all the cougar tails. So
Right, gross. And then you've played the tougher conference schedule so far.
Yeah.
They've played at Iowa State, they played at West Virginia, and they played Oklahoma State at home. Right, I think that you both lost by 11 to the Pokes, give or take, and you did that on the road. So I give Tech a bit of an edge there. Maybe I'm being a homer. That's fine. And then Iowa State is not tougher than Kansas State, and then the Mountaineers is not tougher than Texas. So yeah, I agree. You do have the better resume. You have more ranked victories. You have played a harder schedule, no doubt. I agree. Good point.
Yeah, K-State won and Ames 10-9. I mean, so yeah, those two sort of feel similar.
This and the Yates Flooring Center chat line. I know it's more about the offensive line, but which quarterback do you think has the best edge against West Virginia's defense?
I mean, I would just answer that. I don't think there's a tactical answer to this. Now, I'm not the coach, so. And in other words, I know it's not like it's not like, well, this is our throwing quarterback over here and this is our running quarterback over there, And so I don't know that I think our best quarterback gives us the best chance. Makes sense. I also, because the offensive line is part of that question, or I think I felt like, and I said this, I think consistently throughout the year that. My hope for that group was that they would play better as the year went along, and I attributed that to 2 things. Just more playing time together is a big deal for offensive lines. We know that. We're talking about a relatively young group. I'm not saying they're all freshmen, sophomores, but all the guys that are playing right now have more eligibility after this, and so we're not talking about a bunch of 23-year-olds. But I think a key for that group to continue to progress is being healthy and being able to just play together more, right? And not get gutted by a couple of injuries and elevate some dudes into the rotation that aren't really part of the picture now. Because it feels like, and I'm not certain about this, but it feels like there's 7, maybe 8 that they trust right now that are getting the bulk of the snaps. Mm-hmm. A little bit of rotation at one of the guard positions, I think, and we had the one injury for a couple of weeks, but knock on wood, that group stays healthy and just keeps playing well, and it's a steady improvement. By no means, I am excited, and I'd be fine if this is the week that they bust off about 175 yards rushing and could take over a game that way. I
think this is this is the week where you've been playing all of this murderer's row.
Yeah.
Of teams, and this is a much different opponent, and by that I mean not as strong as what you've played over the last 5 weeks. I mean, their defense should be on paper, right? On paper, this is the worst defense you'll play all season. Maybe if not the worst, one of the 2 or 3 worst. Right? So if you aren't scoring a bunch of points, and I'm not saying you're going to put 50 on them, but if you're not,
sure.
if you don't have offensive success, that's a problem. I mean, that's a concern because, you should. Everyone has so far.
Right.
I mean, they've, for as much as we kind of talk about and are worried about Tech's offensive line, and you just kind of went over it, they've had 4 sacks in conference play so far. I mean, Tyree Wilson has 3.5 by himself against Big 12 opponents. And they're one of the worst teams in the Big 12 in terms of generating sacks. Now, of course, I say that, and they're going to get 15 on Saturday. But
I do love the thought of us being able to run it in a way that sets things up. Putting more safeties, just all the standard sort of football stuff. But put an extra, sneak a safety into the box. We got to shut this running game down. Plenty of time to throw, picking up blitzes, doing the things that really established O-lines can do, and then maybe Baron Morton picks them apart and goes off. It's written on this day. I'll go ahead and say this.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. On this day, 2013, Tech 37, West Virginia 27. Davis Webb 2 touchdowns, 462 yards.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that duplicated.
Cliff's first year, I think that was 7-0, 6-0 at that point. We were all feeling pretty good about ourselves at that point. Yeah. So what's happened? And that was a streak breaker, wasn't it? Or no, was that because we've had a little winning streak and then we lost a bunch in a row and then we won 3 or 4 in a row, right? Against
in
these
2013?
guys? No, against West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been streaks.
Yeah, you beat them in 2012. You beat them in 2013. You lost in 2014, but you should have won. Lost in 2015, lost in 2016, lost in 2017. Should have won that game. And then I think you've won every game since.
So now 3 in a row, 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think 14 was the crappy field goal at the end. And then 17 was when you went up there and you had a pretty substantial first half lead. Not 50 points, but a significant lead. And you missed a field goal at the end. And you never were the same.
Fell apart.
Yeah. They kind of entered the halftime break with some momentum. And you just kind of peed down your leg for 30 minutes. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. I'll take a 4-game home game winning streak and protect the Jones. Haven't done this in a while.
Well, if we get what you're saying, a 4-game win streak, that's 7 home wins. This is a year in which we got 7 home games. So, protect the Jones, win 7 games. That would be that alone by itself. Let's not even talk about at Fort Worth and at Ames. 7-5, really good first year. Protect home, which hadn't happened in a while. There's much to like about that. Win out at home.
I would obviously take that in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I would kind of turn my nose up at a free lunch in a small way, because I would hate to kind of go into an off season where hey, can they win on the road is a thing.
Sure.
That's
right.
that.
Yeah.
Because we know that would be a kind of a question mark, something that's brought up. Okay, great, won all these games, but they don't show up on the road.
Got 8 months to have a crap to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'll
take it. I'm fine.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about this a million times. The Vegas had them somewhere around 5.5, 6 wins on the year, and so that's sort of the expectation for the outside world. So a 7-5 is pretty good, and house money on the others. But I'm with you, because then it would put all the pressure on winning a bowl game, which can they win away from home kind of thing. And it's just what you said. These would be talking points and not an actual area of concern. It'd be a great problem to have.
More Tech Talk next.
meets every Red Raiders favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
I feel like that should be a punishment for a fantasy football league.
Ooh, nice.
You know, like, for the next month, if you go to a public restroom, you're, pants to the ankles, urinal. Like that's your.
And I believe that's known as a full urinal, I think. Maybe a plumber could help, but I think it's a full urinal that has the, whatever you'd call it, the little basin all the way to the ground, as opposed to most urinals now that kind of hit you about knee high or whatever.
Well, that'd be bad. Like, yeah, this guy, he noticed I was drinking Lone Stars. We're in Chicago having a great time, and I just happened to have to use the restroom, and I'm not talking to that guy anymore.
Phillies striking
He
first.
Walked into the restroom, and there he was. Pants at
Top
the
of the
ankles.
second. 2 men on still, 0 outs. Phillies up 1-0. We'll keep you posted. So the first 11 innings of this series have not gone great for the Padres. Still plenty of time, though.
Yeah, in San Diego, too.
Right. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Why hasn't Tech and the city pushed to establish a bowl game in Lubbock? We have plenty of hotels, a nice stadium, weather is hit or miss, etc.
Yeah, I would have a hard time saying the weather's any more hit or miss than Shreveport, Louisiana, or Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, Albuquerque. I don't know. I mean, the history is that in the early 70s, for about 6-7 years, there was the old All-Star game was played here, the Football Coaches Association All-Star game, and those are really cool stories.
Because wasn't that college All-Stars versus professional players?
No, that's another one. That one was played at Soldier Field for a long time. This one was just like an East versus West type scenario. And Jim Plunkett played here. I mean, the list of people that played here was really special. And Don Williams has written about it over I don't know, maybe it was something that you write about during COVID when there's no live sports going on. But and you think about it now, like, holy cow, man. Other than the dudes that are trying to get picked up, trying to have a good game, you think about, some team's second round pick is out there running around,
Yeah, but so the first game,
and it was in June
in Lubbock, the first Coaches All-American game was played less than 2 months after the tornado in 1970.
Yep.
And even, despite all that, they had more than 42,000 people there, which was, up to that point, the highest they've ever had for that game, even when it was in, Buffalo or Atlanta. There you go.
I mean, it's interesting. To the texter's point, though, I mean, that takes some corporate backing and this and that, and and the real question is, what would Tech fans be excited? I mean, would Tech fans go watch Syracuse versus Arizona? Lubbock fans, let me say it that way.
Right.
Is there a core group? And when you see the attendance at the Independence Bowl and some of these things, and you go, oof, it's not, these aren't drawing huge core groups. And there's bowl, Sun Bowl, Gator Bowl, Liberty have been around for a long time to have not been New Year's Day bowls. Mm-hmm. In fact, I would count them to be among an early group of original bowls, right? In the first 10 bowls, maybe. Longest running non-New Year's Eve. But a lot of these other ones, Independence, and, they're either in sort of destination places that are built around tourism. Orlando, a bigger host city. I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
You wouldn't want to be able, or you wouldn't be able to do one this off season, right? Or maybe even next because of the construction at the stadium. I do think that there's something, because like we all know that Lubbock has a unfairly negative reputation as being basically what Tombstone looked like in the movie. I mean, just,
sure.
dirt roads and
I mean,
just like the frontier.
can I respond to that little part right there?
Sure. If you say I'm your Huckleberry, I'm walking out.
At Peak College Baseball Foundation, Peak College Baseball Hall of Fame, trying to get it built here in Lubbock and all that. We had talking points that answered the why Lubbock. I mean, I have documents on my computer, why Lubbock, because of exactly what you're saying. Perception and all those things. A lot of the crap was unfair. But if you're going in there to ask some dude for, a donation and he lives in San Diego, it was something we had to address. So continue.
But, how does that happen?
Yeah. Lose a fly ball in the
Well,
sun.
and he's got sunglasses. I mean, like, you're supposed to be a big leaguer. Yeah, you know that you screwed up. Yeah, I mean, the Padres just botched a fairly routine fly ball in right field.
Yep.
And another run scores for the Phillies. 2-0 now.
And still second and third and one out.
And if they just get here, if you just get here, I think you kind of get it, right? You understand that, okay, this isn't the wild, wild west. So maybe there would be some kind of reputational benefits to the city and the area. But again, I'm sure that it would be an impossible task nearly to get a bowl game here at this point. We'll have the high school fan zone for you tonight, 7 o'clock on 100.7 The Score. You think I could pull off sunglasses like that, Gus?
No.
No?
Not. I mean,
Really?
it'd be a little over the top if you were just wearing those around. There's a lot of dudes that do that, but just there's a little might be just a little over the top. That's all I'm saying. You might want to tone it down a notch if you were going to be doing that right there. And you asked for you personally,
Sure.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Like if you pull into the lot tomorrow wearing those, I'm
if
gonna go.
Juan Soto handed me those glasses, that here you go. I don't deserve these after missing that fly ball.
Yeah, I would say put them on and wear them, but I'm saying because those are like big reflectors, and
Oh, sure.
I mean they would look good. I just like you need to bring some swag if you're gonna do that. Just bring it.
I don't bring swag already.
I always
I don't
thought
think
Aaron
you
was
lead-
Swag City.
I don't think you lead with the sort of swag that those have right there. I don't think it's just right. Like, here's the deal. We're out at the club, we're out at the bar, somebody does it, you're 3 Pepsis in, I'll give you that. Let's go. You fire it up. Just carrying your laptop bag across the parking lot out here. And
Here's my dinghy. It's called How You Going? Yeah. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. The sun is 93 million miles away, Soto. Figure it out.
Somebody channeling their I forget the comedian that's imitating Harry Carey.
This in the chat line. I've been to that All-Star game. I asked Lynn Swan and Randy Gradishar
Yeah.
for their chin straps, and they both said no. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Gradishar was a big Ohio State linebacker.
Ooh, another run in for the Phillies.
Golly.
Blooper into left field.
Crooked numbers. Still runners on the corners and less than 2 outs. Ooh, mercy. Getting tough.
That was a terrible movie. Unbelievably terrible. Like, that ended, I think, Will Smith's streak of just like hit after hit after hit. Mechanical steam-powered spider. What are you talking about? More tech talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Alongside Gus and Clint, I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. How about this? Ari Temkin, who's been on the show before, he hosts Big 12 Radio on Sirius XM. He's a Jayhawk fan, but we won't hold that against him. He sent this. Clint, shut up. This in the chat line. This is what he sent out on Twitter today. Ari Thempkin. Brett Yormark said a decision on a new TV agreement, quote, will be made in the next week or two.
Wow.
Next week or two. And additionally, Timken said, hey, Yormark told me to call him when I read about the value of the new TV deal after I asked him if it would be an increase in revenue from the previous deal. So this is not, because you mentioned this yesterday, and this is a good point, right? Because what else do you kind of expect these commissioners to say, right? You don't, George Kliavkoff, as commissioner of the Pac-12, is not going to admit on the record, especially at like a media day type event, actually, no, we're in huge trouble. We are just screwed. Like they're going to rah-rah their conference.
And that's not a criticism at all. I'm just saying that's what you would expect. Because in the midst of things, you want to, hey, everything's okay here. Nobody's, you're just not going to see a leader come out and just, it's just crappy. It's just, there's nothing to be gained there.
So I think there's a difference, though, between trying to rally the troops, so to speak, with some, confident comments, and then Yormark going so far as to say, hey, when this news comes out, you call me. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm telling you it's going to go up, and if it doesn't, you can call me. Like, that's to me going a step further.
Yeah.
And being very kind of upfront, out front,
kind of
bullish,
brash. Yeah, kind of brash New Yorker. Yeah.
So, if Yormark is to be believed, and maybe he's just a spin guy, and we'll come to know that about him, but up to this point, we don't have any reason to think he's being anything less than a straight shooter. And so, going off of his comments, a week or two, like we should have news on a new Big 12 deal in a week or two.
That's the part that's
right?
The most. There's a lot to like about it. A, this soon, and B, with relatively good news. And I'm sure that something like that done at this point would have escalators in it for added schools and some of that kind of stuff.
I would think so.
I would think so. Because the hay probably isn't in the barn as far as Big Ten expansion and getting perhaps Oregon, Washington, somebody in there. Who knows?
There's been some, and I don't want to call it reporting because that's not quite accurate. There has been some conjecture in the Twitter sphere and in the media landscape that, hey, the Big Ten, will ultimately do what it wants, but it doesn't like the idea of kind of going down as the conference that kills the Pac-12, right?
Right.
A little. That gives it some pause. Now, it didn't stop them from taking USC and UCLA, which ultimately is the mortal wound from which the Pac will never recover. But maybe it doesn't want to give the kill shot. I don't know that the Big 12 has any such qualms, nor should it. Right after being plucked by the Pac, by the SEC,
mm-hmm. Big Ten
the Big Ten. Yeah, great point. For the last decade, the decade plus, I don't think the Big 12 owes anybody anything. Like, okay, you took teams in 2010, Big Ten, you took some in 2010, SEC's taken some. Now our turn.
Yep. Sorry to you, Kliavkov, that didn't happen under your regime and you're having to pay for it. But yeah, I'm with you in that regard, 100%. And because there's also an element of this, perhaps, that is eat or be eaten, by putting a fork in the the Pac-12, they're not going to be around to really poach, BYU or whoever would be the Western, I guess us. And the other thing is, part of that too is some of my feeling in that is a reaction to what happened a year ago or a little over a year ago, in which, that there was some schools in the Big 12 going, hey, you interested? And they shot that down. And admittedly, talking about the surviving members of the Pac-12 might say yes to something like that now, I don't know, of the Pac-12. And it was the USC president who drove that car and said no thanks, and now they're leaving. So all of that, and we know what that feels like because we've let Texas call a lot of shots around this conference. And as far as media goes, that cost us, some pretty good fits, right? Some pretty good conference members. And now they're leaving.
I mean, if we get TV deal news in 2 weeks and football schedule news in November, I mean, that's going to be plus on top of just the football stuff.
Yeah, and we're talking about things like that in advance of Thanksgiving. I mean, as sort of as predicted and as promised, that's pretty good. It really is. The only other, if you'd have said what big earth-shaking news will we get before Thanksgiving, if you'd have asked us that back in July or August, we would have said, Four Corners, new members, conference realignment, and who knows, that could still happen, but it doesn't feel like that's percolating at this point.
I do think that we'll have. I don't know that it will happen immediately after you get a new deal, assuming that you get one, right? Assuming that your mark is correct, and you will get a new, early deal with Fox and ESPN, and your revenue numbers will go up. That should be kind of a show and tell moment, I think, in terms of this expansion, because at that point you'll have hard, black and white numbers to present to the Four Corner programs if you still want all four, if you just want two or whatever. And
especially if there's escalator language, and that sort of
pro
stuff.
rata, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, that doesn't cost you money to go, because most people look at that and go, why would we want to divide the pie into more smaller slices? Like, no, I think that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, the pie slice would stay the same,
right?
I'm sure. And so if nothing happens there, even if nothing is just like reported.
Sure, that's hanging out there.
You would think that, okay, this probably is not. It's on the back burner for a while, or they're just going to stick it out until until the Big Ten adds some Pac-12 teams, and then they'll move over. So yeah, that the few weeks in the immediate aftermath of that next TV deal will be very interesting in terms of expansion.
You bet, because then just to put a name on it, then the University of Arizona is looking at their conference office and looking at Kliavkov, and then looking over here. At the Big 12, and then looking, and then the back channel communication when somebody, if and when it happens, that somebody says, "Hey, now would be a good time to apply for membership." Just saying. I tell you what, if Arizona joins this conference, the basketball league that this is just ridiculous. And I'm curious, man. I mean, we're talking about it. It's not the same thing. I understand that. But the reporting just over the last week, the idea that the NBA is just about to strike it huge with their media rights deal, it really makes me wonder if college sports, if somebody like your Mark is seeing value in college basketball that others haven't seen before. The value of just the regular season. Not when you say the regular season, but the conference play. It would really be what you're selling, right?
Right.
What is the value of Texas Tech and Texas hoops and those type things? If anybody's figuring that, it might be your Mark.
You've been listening to the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3. Check out Double T973.com for more from Lubbock Sports Station.